Setting it up right. Why the details matter. Now that we understand when trust accounts are required and why they carry such high risk, the next step is proper setup and identification. This is where many brokers unintentionally create compliance issues, not because they are mishandling funds, but because the account itself is not properly established. The Broker Audit Declaration, BAD, specifically requires brokers to disclose how trust accounts are titled, where they are held, and how they are managed. ADRE is not just verifying that an account exists, they are verifying that it is set up correctly from day one. Under ARS, Paragraph 32-2151 and AAC R428-1103, the designated broker is responsible for ensuring that trust accounts are properly established, clearly identified, and compliant with all regulatory requirements. A poorly titled or improperly structured account can create the same level of liability as mishandling funds. Proper titling of trust accounts, clarity and transparency. One of the most important and often overlooked requirements is the proper titling of the trust account. The name on the account must clearly indicate that the funds are being held in trust and are not the broker's personal or operating funds. A compliant trust account title typically includes the brokerage name as licensed with ADRA, the words trust account or client trust account. For example, a properly titled account might read Realty One Group Trust Account. This distinction is critical. If the account is not clearly labeled as a trust account, it may be interpreted as an operating account, which can lead to serious compliance issues. For example, a brokerage in Tempe opens a bank account labeled only with the company name without identifying it as a trust account. Even if the broker is using the account correctly, the lack of proper titling creates ambiguity and may result in an audit finding. This ties directly into the bad, where brokers must disclose account details. ADRE expects those details to match the actual account structure. Financial institution requirements. Where funds are held matters. Trust accounts must be held in a recognized financial institution that is capable of properly handling and documenting trust funds. While Arizona law does not limit brokers to specific banks, the institution must be able to provide accurate records, statements, and transaction histories. The key requirement is that the account must allow the broker to track deposits and withdrawals, maintain clear records of all transactions, provide documentation upon request. This requirement supports compliance with ARS, paragraph 32-2151.01, which mandates proper record keeping and accessibility. For example, a brokerage in Chandler using a national bank with integrated online reporting can easily generate account statements and transaction logs. In contrast, using an informal or poorly documented financial system creates significant risk during an audit. ADRE is not evaluating the bank. It is evaluating whether the broker can produce accurate and complete records. Separation of funds. Understanding commingling rules. At the core of trust account compliance is the strict separation of funds. Brokers must ensure that client funds are never mixed with personal or brokerage operating funds. This concept, known as commingling, is one of the most serious violations in real estate law. Under ARS paragraph 32-2151, brokers are required to keep client funds separate at all times. There are very limited exceptions, such as maintaining a nominal amount of broker funds in the account to cover bank fees. But even this must be handled carefully and documented. A practical example in Phoenix. A broker deposits $500 of personal funds into the trust account to cover potential bank charges. This is generally acceptable if it is clearly documented and not used for any other purpose. However, if the broker begins using the account to pay business expenses, even temporarily, this becomes commingling. This is where many brokers make mistakes. They assume that small or temporary use of funds is harmless, but under Arizona law, intent does not matter. The act itself is the violation. This principle ties back to Jennings v. Lee, reinforcing the broker's fiduciary duty to protect client funds at all times. Documentation required for bad submission, proving compliance. The Broker Audit Declaration requires more than just verbal confirmation, it requires documentation. Brokers must be prepared to provide detailed information about their trust accounts, including account names and titling, financial institution details, account numbers, as required by ADRE, types of accounts, general escrow versus property management. This documentation allows ADRE to verify that the trust accounts are properly established and aligned with the brokerage's business activities. For example, if a broker indicates on the BAD that they conduct property management, ADRE will expect to see a properly titled Property Management Trust account. If the account is missing or incorrectly structured, it creates an immediate red flag. This connects directly to earlier sections. Your business type, Section 2.1, determines your trust account needs, Section 2.2, and your setup, Section 2.3, must support both. Bringing it all together. Trust account compliance is not just about handling money, it starts with how the account is created. Proper titling, appropriate financial institutions, strict separation of funds, and accurate documentation all work together to create a compliant system. The broker audit declaration is designed to confirm that these foundational elements are in place. If the setup is wrong, everything that follows is at risk. In the next section, we will take this even further by examining trust account operations, including reconciliation, record keeping, and daily management practices that keep brokers in compliance. Online discussion. Why is proper titling of a trust account so important? Answer. Proper titling clearly identifies the account as holding client funds, ensuring there is no confusion between trust funds and operating funds. This transparency is essential for compliance and audit purposes. What is commingling and why is it a serious violation? Answer. Commingling occurs when client funds are mixed with broker or personal funds. It is a serious violation because it compromises the integrity of the trust account and breaches the broker's fiduciary duty. Why does ADRE require documentation of trust accounts in the BAD? Answer. ADRE uses this documentation to verify that trust accounts are properly established, aligned with the brokerage's business activities, and compliant with Arizona law.